Words cannot fully express how excited I am to be on the stage with Mr. Richard Smallwood, one of the greatest of our time in terms of music production, vocal arrangement, and just a hallelujah good time having writer. Our guest today is world-renowned in the gospel music world. Mr. Smallwood's contribution to the world through his music has made a profound impact on how we hear and experience music. His classical approach to the genre and his soul-stirring lyrics have cemented Mr. Smallwood as an icon and a musical genius. So today, as part of my project to graduate, I have the opportunity to sit down and share a little with Mr. Smallwood. Afterwards, we'll have a short Q&A, and then there's some refreshments on the outside. We ask that you would allow the university students to partake first. There's only a few slices of pizza, so just get one. Save some for everybody else. All right? Y'all can tell I'm nervous, right? So, Mr. Smallwood, first, I want to again say thank you for agreeing to come and meet with me and have our interview be public. Initially, I was going to do a personal one-on-one interview so I could write my paper, but inspired, I asked if he would be willing to allow us to share this with the music community here at the university, and he was graciously agreed to it. So again, thank you. The plan I had for writing my paper was Richard Smallwood, the man, the music, the ministry. And so the questions that I have fall into. Is too close? Okay, I got a big mouth, I'm sorry. Falls into those three categories. And so as we go through this interview, please, if you have any questions that are resonating in the back of your mind, hold those to the end, and then we'll give you a chance to join in and share. What was growing up as a child like for you?
Well, first of all, let me say good afternoon to everybody. It's good to be here. Growing up as a kid was a musical journey, and my mother says that I started humming melodies that I would hear at church before I began to talk. So when I was 2, she bought me a blue baby grand toy piano, and I would bang out the rhythms and hum. I couldn't pick out the notes yet. And then when I was about probably 4 or 5, maybe a little younger, maybe 3 or 4, I'd start climbing up on my stepdad's upright piano and start picking out melodies and things that I heard. And so, they knew at a very early age that, music was something that I loved. So they exposed me to all things musical. She would take me to classical concerts, and I'd go to gospel concerts, and, they started buying me records when I was probably about 4 or something, and a little record player. I didn't start taking piano till I was about 7. So by then I could play just about anything by ear. So my teachers had a hard time trying to get me to read because I could, depend on my ear. But, my mom especially exposed me to all kinds of music, Broadway music, the pop of that day like Sarah Vaughan and Patti Page, Nat King Cole. So I grew up listening to all that, of course gospel as well. So what I took in, I guess, was a composite of all those different genres that really was my foundation.
As when you were young taking piano lessons, how did you, what kind of music did you have? The reason I'm asking is my father sent me to piano lessons, and on the second lesson, the lady whacked my hand with the ruler. After that, I was done with it. I wish I'd have stayed though, but what kind of experience did you have with your first music teacher?
Well, they would pop me with a pencil, not the ruler, but she popped me with that pencil. But I fooled all of my teachers till I was about maybe 14 or 15. In terms of not being able to read. And, when they would give me a lesson for the next week, she would say, okay, Richard, play, I want you to do page 23 for next week. And I said, play it for me. And they do it. And all I had to do was hear it once. If I heard it once, I had it. So next week I'd come back and my eyes would be on the music, but I didn't know what I was reading. And that really... Howard University used to have what they called the junior preparatory department, and they had students from, I guess they started around 3rd grade up until 12th grade, and I auditioned for that program when I was in, I think, the 8th grade, something like that, and I had to do an audition, and the late Ann Burwell was the head of the junior preparatory department. And so I played my little scales and my little, pieces that I had learned down through the years. And she said, okay, now I'm gonna give you something to sight read. I started sweating. So she pulled out this manuscript and she said, all right. She said, it doesn't matter what tempo you play, it just, play. And so I said, well, play it for me. And she said no. And so after she let me fall on my face, for about 10 or 15 minutes, she said, you can't read. I said, well, if I do Every Good Boy Does Fine, good boys do fine. She said, no, I mean, sit down and sight read. She said, but I'm going to accept you in this program. But if it kills me and it kills you, by the time you're a senior in high school, you're going to know how to read. And I think it sort of killed both of us a little bit. It was the hardest thing, but I'm so grateful to her because by the time I got to Howard as a freshman, I could outsight read all the freshmen that were there. So, but I'm glad she caught me, because I'd still been doing the same thing if nobody had caught me.
That's amazing. I know for me, I took general music in the 7th grade. We learned the basics of reading. Between that and playing in the band, we really didn't get the discipline training that we needed to transition to college and being able to sight read. And so that's amazing that you were able to find somebody who took the time to make sure that was one of the skills that you gained. So how do you balance your time between your personal life and your music and ministry life?
It's not really hard, I don't think. I mean, people think that because I do what I do, I'm always doing music, but sometimes I can go 3 or 4 years without writing a song. I write very sporadically, and when it comes, I know when it's there and I have to run to the piano. Usually it comes when I'm not near the piano, I'm in the car, grocery store, airport, hotel, something like that. So I always have my cell phone with me so that I can put down whatever ideas I get. But I don't spend a lot of time in music. Somebody asked me the other day, they were over the house and they saw my piano and said, do you practice? I was like, if my professor, the late Dr. Thomas Kerr, ever heard that, he would murder me. But I don't do a lot of music unless it's something that's coming up, and something I got to prepare for. But in my spare time, I'll listen to it, but I don't usually do a lot of it myself.
I'm laughing because a lot of us students in the music department can attest to that. And we only practice when it's time to have piano jury or time to take a test.
I couldn't get away with that when I was in school. No, I practiced in 4 to 5 hours a day. I was a piano major, so I had to, and I got one semester, I decided I was going to party. And I learned one piece. It was a Sanson piece. I think it was Toccata in F sharp minor. It wasn't the easiest thing, and I didn't even learn it thoroughly. I halfway learned it. And at the end of the semester, Dr. Kerr said, "So you're partying this semester?" And I said, "Well, you know how it is, college life." He said, "I tell you what, find yourself another major because you're not a piano major anymore." And I almost broke down in tears, And he said, no, because you've done nothing this entire semester. You have an F in your major. But I tell you that woke me up. He said, the only way I would erase that F, he said, I'll make it an incomplete F if you come to summer school and learn a complete recital, Baroque period, classical period, romantic period, contemporary period, and play it by memory in September when we come back to school. Then I'll erase and give you an A. But I tell you, I had the best recital. Listen, he never had any more problems out of me. So I really practiced. Except for that one semester, I practiced when I was in school.
One of the things that urges us on to do better is the understanding that there's consequences for our inactions and unwillingness to do what it takes to become what we're studying to be. So that's a great message for all of us to take with us today. What is your greatest accomplishment outside of your music career?
Outside of my music career, wow. I don't know. I think for me, and I guess this is more ministry than the music, although the music is a medium. But I think my greatest accomplishments that really encourage me are when people come up and say, your music made a difference in my life. I've had people say that, a song stopped them from committing suicide, it got them through the death of a parent or a spouse or a child. One woman years ago wrote me and said that she had an allergy to anesthesia and she had to have an operation, and they could not give her anesthesia. They could give her local anesthesia, but not, put her to sleep. And she said, I had them play your music through my entire operation. That's what got me through. So that kind of stuff, when you see that what you're doing is more than just creating, but it's making a difference in people's lives. Because I think we can write all the great music we want to, but if it's not life-changing, then it's just music. What does it accomplish? But when people are changed, people are encouraged, regardless of what the genre is, I think that's what our gifts are about. So when you see a gift being utilized that way, and that it's, making a positive difference in the people that hear it, then to me, that's everything to me. That's everything to me.
Awesome. What is your biggest musical pet peeve?
Well, I have a whole lot of Oh, God, my biggest one. I don't know what my biggest one is. I think because I came up on the different genres of music I did, Rodgers and Hammerstein, in terms of, Broadway stuff with all these soaring melodies and wonderful. I hate boring music that has 2 chords or maybe 3. Because a lot of times the way that a lot of people write music today is they write to the beat. I always start with the melody, because the melody to me is the most important thing. If it doesn't have a good melody, how can you sing it? What is memorable about it? So, I think boring music is really, and I hear a lot of that today. you know, across the board, you know. And I mean, even like the R&B artists I grew up on, you know, R&B is not what it was when I was a kid. You know, I grew up on Motown, you know, and Aretha and, you know, Patty and you know, all these Stevie. You don't hear those kinds of melodies and lush harmonies anymore. Somebody just gets, and it's a hit. They get 3 chords together, and that infuriates me. That infuriates me because I just think music is so much more than that, and there's so many more possibilities that you could do that are so interesting and so intricate. And when I see people not using that and just sort of getting by with being trite, and what we have now is a bunch of young people who don't know what real music is. So when they hear these 2 chords, they think, oh, that's cool, I like that, you know. And that's not music to me, it's trite. So that's probably one of my biggest peeves, trite music.
Your response leads me, you sort of answered part of this question. Is the gospel music industry heading in the right direction?
Well, I don't know if I can answer that. I mean, who knows what the right direction is? I mean, even in gospel music, I think in gospel music, in music across the board, I don't see a lot of pioneers, people coming up with different concepts. Everybody's trying to be the other person. You know, I want to sound like this person because that was a hit. So if I sound like them, then I'll have a hit. When I came up, people were like, they were making like discoveries in music and stuff. When you heard someone on the radio, you knew exactly who it was. Now, I have no idea. And I sort of keep up with some of the, some of the younger stuff, but I don't know who it is. Sometimes I have to listen, or either the radio announcer will have to announce it, because I don't know. But people had signatures. Their music had signatures. You knew, oh, that's so and so. I know that's so and so. And I don't see that in gospel music. I don't see it either. I don't see a lot of people doing different stuff, trying to make music like pioneers. I don't see that.
When composing your music, well, I understand it comes, you're inspired to write a particular song. How much theory do you use, or do you apply to the music that you create?
I think I always use theory. I mean, even before I knew what theory was, even before I knew what a German 6 or Italian 6 or all that kind of stuff was, I knew it by ear. I didn't know what you called it. So when I would listen to other music and I would listen to structure, I would try to imitate, especially because I listened to a lot of classical music, a lot of Rachmaninoff. The first classical recording my mother brought me when I was 9, I think, was Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 1. And so I listened to that kind of stuff. So I think when I started writing, even before I knew what it was, I tried to emulate what I heard. Of course, when I took harmony and took theory, I try to stay away from parallel fifths and parallel octaves and stuff like that. But certainly theory has a great influence on what I do.
Great. As a young musician, what advice did you receive that you still apply today?
I think I was always encouraged to be the best that I could be and don't settle for mediocrity. My 8th grade music teacher was Roberta Flack, and she encouraged me, to go beyond the boundaries. And I'd watch her play, and I would try to emulate, what she did. When I got to Howard, my classmate was Donny Hathaway. And he would come in and show me chords and things of that nature. So I always say God put people around me that really pushed me and encouraged me and showed me stuff that I had never thought of. And I think in doing that, it made me push, for the best. I was always super, 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 super shy. And when it came to having to perform in front of people who were, big and huge, I would just sit down and wouldn't do anything. And I remember I had one of my friends that I went to Howard with, her godfather was Sammy Davis Jr. And so he was appearing at the Kennedy Center, and she got me and some of the other students tickets to go and see him. So after the show was over, we went backstage, and she introduced, she said, "Uncle Sammy, this is Richard. This is the guy I was telling you about. He writes and plays and stuff like that." And he said, "Oh, cool, man, play something for me." And I said, "No, that's all right." When I tell you, I had never been called names like that in my life. My friends cussed me out, but I was very shy, very insecure. So God put people around me really who pushed me when I was afraid, pushed me when I didn't believe in myself. So I think people are put in our lives for certain reasons to help us to reach our predestination and what we're here to do. And those people are the ones that really sort of push us to that, to that goal, to that thing that we're here for. And certainly, a lot of people around me who pushed me and who encouraged me. And a lot of them are gone now, but I'm thankful, every day for those people. I wouldn't be who I am or where I am today if it had not been for them.
What would you say to the aspiring gospel artist or any artist who desires to share their craft on a professional level?
I would say first get some education in your craft. I think one of the reasons that a lot of the music now is I say, boring to me, is that there's a lot of talent out there, but a lot of times there's no training. That fundamental theory, and knowing how to harmonize a melody and those kinds of things. Sometimes, young people don't know that. So I always tell them, the gift is there, but develop it. Get some. You don't have to get a degree, but get some training. If you're a voice, if your thing is voice, then get some vocal training. If your thing is piano, get some harmony and some theory training. Get some learn your scales and the whole 9 yards. Because I think that makes you a better musician. Also get people around you who are versed in the business, because people forget that the industry is number one, a business. And that's why some people last and some people don't. Because I don't care how good you are, if your business ain't right, you're not gonna last. You're not gonna last. So learn as much as you can about the business, and then get people around you, whether they're attorneys or managers or whatever, who really know the business, who are trustworthy, because you can only last if the business is right.
That is excellent advice. And we're lucky here at UDC because we have such a talented staff of professors who are experienced and have a great wealth of knowledge, and who have gone, toured across the country and across this world, and they bring that knowledge back here with us. And so we are definitely blessed. The Gospel Studies program here at UDC is a hidden gem, and it's great to have an opportunity just to highlight the work being done here at UDC. How has your faith influenced your music?
My faith is everything. My faith is everything. I mean, I have gone through in my life some very difficult times. Actually, I'm working on my autobiography, just finishing it up. And I talk about a lot of the stuff that I've gone through. And if it had not been for my faith, I wouldn't be here. That to me is my biggest treasure. That's my biggest treasure. And it has carried me through my life up to this point. Most definitely.
Amen. Well, that's all the questions that I have. And so, if you don't mind, I'd like to open up the floor for a few questions from the audience.
And let me say before they start, I am so proud of you guys here at UDC, especially with this gospel program. And someone wrote an article, I don't know who it was, in the paper about some school, I forgot where it was, saying that they were the first to do a gospel music studies program. And I wrote the editor. I said, excuse me, no. Pearl Williams-Jones was one of my best. She was my mentor. When I was a student in Howard, Pearl took me under her wing. And she was another one that pushed me and showed me so many things. And I remember in 1977 when I first started the Smallwood Singers, we'd been together maybe 3 months maybe, and there was a festival in Paris that was looking for a black gospel group. And she said, I have just a group. And when we woke up, we were in Paris, so I mean, she was such a wealth of knowledge, such a beautiful spirit. So I could not let somebody think they were the first when I knew who the first was. So I want to congratulate you guys because that's such a great program. And wherever I go, I talk about it because it's very, very unique.
Thank you. Any questions?
Hello. It is
Hello.
a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Richard Smallwood. I am a great fan and I love your work. So I was a huge fan of the Small. I'm glad that you mentioned the Smallwood Singers. A huge fan. My favorite songs was I think I have 2. Jesus, Lover of My Soul, and the original recording of Your Love Divine. So my question was, what made you transition from having a group to now having a choir, which is a vision?
I just felt that I had done all I can do with the group. We had been together for 15 years, and I was burnt out. I mean, I just felt that I couldn't do anything else with them. And actually, before I even started Vision, God sort of gave it to me in my heart. I need you to start an ensemble. I said, I'm going to start an ensemble. He kept saying it. And finally, I said, well, I'm just going to start it, and I'm going to do one album just to, satisfy him. And I did that one album, and that's the album Total Praise was on. And so the rest is sort of history, so I never went back to the Smallwood Singers. But I had done all I could with the Smallwood Singers. Like I said, we've been together for quite a while. And I wanted to work with more voices. I wanted to do more choral kinds of stuff. And now we've been together 22 years. It's just transition and going from one level to the next.
There's a trend in gospel music that a lot of people who are known for having big choirs, they're now reverting back to smaller groups. Is there any sort of plan in your future?
No. I mean, I tell you what, I don't. Sometimes if I'm going to Detroit in about 2 weeks, and I'm only taking 7 singers, so it's not like I always take 20 or something like that. Sometimes I take 7, and sometimes I'll take 8, or sometimes I'll take 15 or whatever. But I have the luxury of choosing whoever, and they can duplicate the sound regardless. So it gives me more of choices, I guess.
I just like to interrupt and say he didn't mention because probably, hi, this is Nelda Orr.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm wonderful. He is one of our graduates in gospel studies. I guess he didn't want to talk about himself.
Awesome, awesome.
You are going to bless us with it.
No, we didn't. Okay, next question.
How you doing? Richard,
Hey, Johnny.
how do you, your vocal sound, with your choir is very distinct. What from your college, undergrad vocal training, theory training, whatever, sets your vocal writing apart from everybody else? Because I know you are a voice minor, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what makes the Smallwood sound so? You can sound like James Cleveland one minute and the Mormon Tabernacle Choir the next. What makes them so?
It really started at Howard. My dear friend, the late Brother Wesley Boyd, was the assistant to Carolyn Grant, who was the head of the voice department when I was at Howard. And so Wesley sort of carried over all the stuff that he learned from Miss Grant to the gospel. We had a group called the Celestials, which was actually the first gospel group on Howard's campus. It predates the gospel choir. Donnie Hathaway was the original pianist. And then when I came as a freshman, I took his place. So Wesley's training sort of started that. And I just sort of took it, what he taught, and sort of took it to another level. There's certain phrases that I use, there's certain dynamics that I use, there's certain ways of placing vowels that I use that I'm very particular about that. And now I've been doing it for so long with Vision that they just sort of do it automatically because they know what I want. But if I'm going and doing a workshop or something like that, a lot of times I'll have to really talk about vowel sounds, vocal sounds, placement, whether it's head, whether it's chest, whether it's forward, whether it's back, all those kinds of things, because that's the way I was taught. And so when I started to write and train different groups, starting with Celestials to even the gospel choir, then to Union Temple young adult choir, and then to Smallwood singers, and then to Vision. Someone asked me, why does everybody sound the same? So that's what sound like Vision. And I thought, well, it's because I think I use the same kinds of concepts that I started with, and a lot of that started right at Howard.
Good afternoon, Uncle Richard. How are you?
Hey.
My question is, what is your secret ingredient for almost every choir in the world that wants to sing your music, or they do sing your music? I mean, your music has such mass appeal that you go into a storefront church, they sing it.
Yes.
You go across the world, they sing it.
Yes.
What is it? What do you think?
I don't know. I'm just blessed. I don't know. I try to write music of my experiences, and I think we all share the same experiences, regardless of what color we are, what culture we are. So I try to write music that transcends culture, transcends race, transcends language, and for some reason it seems to work. I remember we went to Russia, which was a crazy kind of a situation, because they didn't know what we were talking about. Nobody spoke English, and we would have an interpreter who would come out each evening and say, this is an African American gospel group, and they're singing songs of their faith. And they had a heavy metal rock band that opened up for us. which was interesting. And they were like breaking the guitars, and it was. And I gotta follow this. But it was so crazy because when we came out, we started singing. First of all, it got really quiet, and then I looked, and everybody had lit their lighters, and they were, but they didn't know what we were saying. That's why I'm saying that I think music transcends language and culture. I think it's spirit.
Yeah.
You can feel it. If you write music from your spirit, if you write music from your heart, if you write music from your soul, doesn't matter where you sing it, people can feel it. If you're just writing because I want to hit, or if you're just writing because I got a record and I got to do 8 songs, so I'm do one good song and do 7 fillers. I think your intention has to be writing from your heart. And I think if you write from your heart, then regardless of who you sing it for, people will get it. When Pearl brought us over to Paris that time, and people came up, we had one of my best friends, Edward Sully, who was a foreign language major at Howard, so he understood French. We didn't know what they were saying. But she came up and asked, why is it that we feel what we feel when you sing? When I was in Russia, the very lead of the heavy metal rock band, we traveled together from city to city on this bus. And he came up to me one night on the bus, and in broken English, he said to me, Richard, why is it when I sing, I feel bound, but when I hear you sing, I hear freedom? That blew me away. It blew me away because I had been asking God, why am I here? The food is awful. The whole thing, there were roaches in the hotel. The girls and the Smallwood singers were taking what do you call them things that you burn? Incense, and burning the roaches with them on the wall. I mean, it was awful. The water was orange, and I was like, God, why am I here? But when that young man said that to me, I understood. I was there for a purpose. So I think it's all about where you write from. I think that has everything to do with it.
Hi, Mrs. Smallwood. Hi. My question for you would be, what kind of methods did you have to take to build your self-confidence as an artist and as an individual?
What kind of methods?
Yeah, what did you have to do to build it, to build up yourself?
I think, like I said before, I had a lot of people around me who pushed me. I think I was normally shy. I'm the biggest introvert you ever want to see, still to the day. And I think if it had been left up to my own devices, I may not be where I am today. But God just put a whole bunch of people in my life, like Roberta, just not only people of note, but friends who said, I believe in you, and we're going to fight if you don't get out here and let people know what you can do. So my friend Wesley was like that. My friend, the late Sandra Fagans, who was an attorney, she used to look at me and she used to say, you don't realize the talent you had. And I really didn't. I just felt that my talent wasn't good enough. I always felt that. It had a lot of insecurity. And it just took a lot of people around me to push me, So if you can get that nucleus of people around to encourage you, that really helps you over the hump. It really does. People who believe in you, whether it's teachers, whether it's professors. Thank God for all the many teachers I had at Howard who encouraged me and who threatened my life. Because all of that has everything to do with where I am today. Once I got on my feet, I was like, oh, I can do this. You know what I'm saying? But it took a minute. My mother used to say, oh, you're this, you're wonderful. But I was like, you mama, so you biased. So I didn't believe her. But she was telling the truth, but it took people outside of my family who said, you can do this, and that's really what built my confidence up.
I felt that in my spirit. When you want these musicians come up here on the scale on the piano, I need to get my
Jury
shout
time.
out.
I was thinking how different times have changed, because when we were at Howard, of course, at the same time.
Yes.
We knew the same people. And I remember it was very hard for you when you got ready to practice any gospel, anything that resembled, because of Dean Lawson.
Oh, yes.
Oh my God, it's almost like they had to keep watch for him to come down in the practice area, you know? So I was just sitting here thinking how times have really, really changed. And even jazz, I mean, you just didn't do it.
You just didn't do it. I mean, that was a time at Howard where if it wasn't classical, you just didn't do it. Of course, Dean Lawson was a master of the Negro spiritual.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, that was definitely done. But any kind of African-American music, whether it be jazz or gospel, I mean, we could get actually put out of school if we were caught practicing in the practice area gospel music. And I'm trying to think of the security guard's name. It won't come to me. But he used to patrol around the practice area. And if he heard us playing gospel, then he would report us to the dean. But nobody really paid that any mind. I mean, I remember many times we'd be jamming on some gospel in the practice room, and we'd always have a lookout. And somebody said, "Here come the dean," and I'd go right into Chopin until he passed, and then we go back into our jamming or whatever. And actually, we took over the Fine Arts Building probably around 69 or 70, somewhere like that, because we didn't have any Black Studies courses, no African American courses in music, no jazz, and we said, we appreciate all of the Western civilization music that you're teaching us. We love it, because I grew up on classical music, so that was fine with me. But we're here in a HBCU, and we can't even do our own music. So we pulled the piano out. It's not giving you no ideas now. We pulled the piano out from the practice area on the front of the steps and sang gospel all day long. And we would let anybody in the door until the dean would hear our demands. And that went on for about 3 or 4 days. And finally he said, "I'll hear you." And our demands really was, we wanted a jazz band. We wanted jazz studies. We wanted African American music studies, which we just didn't have. And shortly after, 2 years after that, Donald Byrd came and he became the head of the jazz department. He started the jazz band. We started the gospel choir, which, they still didn't like, but they got over it. But it sort of changed the face of what was going on in music at Howard at the time. So that was definitely a transition. But Nelda is so right. You better not play nothing in that practice area other than Chopin or Debussy or somebody.
What's your favorite Richard Smallwood song?
Oh, wow. That's like having a whole bunch of children. And certainly the biggest has been Total Praise out of all of them. And that's definitely one of my favorites because it came out of a very difficult time that I was going through. My mom was sick. My god brother was terminally ill. And my baby foster brother had a complete mental breakdown. So I was like sort of being caregiver, going from taking care of one person to the other, and just really was like, God, can you hear me? Do you see? I mean, I just felt so frustrated. There was nothing I could do to help my loved ones other than be there for them. But I just felt so helpless. Excuse me, and that's how Total Praise came to me. Sitting at my piano, and it just came. And I remember I was trying to write like a pity party song, Like, Lord, I will lift my eyes to the hills, so come on down from the hills and help me and hold me and dry my tears. That's really what I was trying to do, and he kept pulling it towards this praise song, and I was pulling in the opposite direction because praise was the last thing that was on my mind. And when I finished it, I remember I broke down in tears, and he said to me, regardless of where you find yourself, you still owe me praise, because I got this. I got your back. Even when you can't see it, I got this. But you just got to believe it. And that's how that song came about. So I think that song is very important to me, not because of what it's done, but the way it came. Because it came to me for me. And little did I know that it was going to do what it did. I'll be 23 years later, you got kids who weren't even born singing it when it came out. Like, what is that about? But that just shows you what God can do, and that I believe that He plans our lives, He plans our steps. I believe He plans our music. So there's purpose in everything. Even sometimes when you're writing something, you never know where it's going to go. You never know. So don't ever compare yourself to someone else. Well, I want to write something like this. No, you write what you've been given. Because what you've been given is unique, is purposeful, and it's for you. And there's somebody out there who needs to hear it. You got folk that are assigned to you that you don't even know. You may never ever meet them, but this song I write is for that person. So it just, the whole thing has really encouraged me to know that I think that the whole thing about music is much bigger than we are, much bigger. I always tell people that I think there's sometimes, and this is just my feeling deep in my spirit, is that on some level the music is already written in the spiritual realm, and we who are musicians, we who are composers, have a sensitivity that we can connect to that sometime and receive it like it's being downloaded. And there's some songs I've written, I go, yeah, I know I wrote that, but there are other songs I'll be like, where did that come from? And so I really believe that music is spiritual. It really is. It really is. So you just never know where your music is going to go and what its purpose is, because all of it has purpose.
So, what advice would you have for the classical singer who really just loves singing gospel? Like, I love Puccini, I love Mozart, I love Bach, I even love Hildegard von Bingen. Like, I love all sacred music, but sometimes I just want praise. So, but I feel like even in that praise, I don't want to get caught so much in the voice that I lose the praise. So what advice would you have, for...
Well, just do it. I think Bach is my absolute favorite composer. Absolute favorite. I remember when I first went to Howard, and I had this, Mr. Shoup was my teacher in the junior preparatory department. He gave me a Bach, I forgot what, I hope it was an invention, I can't remember what it was. I'm like, this is the ugliest music I've ever heard. And he was like, Richard, this is going to become your favorite composer. And I was like, lies you tell. But it really did. When I understood, because I was like 14 or 15, when I really started understanding it and the intricacies of what this crazy man was doing and the way that it worked, I was like, this is perfection right here. So I like it all. And I've let my classical influences color my gospel, So I would say just do it, there are many, a number of singers who have classical voices who do wonderful interpretations of gospel music. So, I mean, just use what God has given you and just do it. Don't be, don't be swayed by, well, is it this or is it that? I mean, of course, I remember in Howard again, a lot of the voice teachers didn't want, like my voice teacher, God rest her soul, Mrs. Bird, she didn't want me to sing gospel, and I did a 45 with Howard's Gospel Choir where I was leading. Somebody played it for her. And I walked in the room, and she was like, oh God, here he come with that gospel mess. And she said to me, I want you singing that gospel mess. But see, I played for Miss Burgess' vocal students, all the recitals and stuff like that. So she wasn't going to do it too much because I was playing for all her students. And I told her, I mean, that was my little radical days. I said, listen, what I sing is my faith. And it's my culture as well. So Miss Bird, as much as I love you, I'm not going to stop singing it. And she never said anything else, because, we were crazy. Like, we were like, we were radical, Ungawa, Black Power, with the shikis and the afros. And we were really radical, but it worked. So don't ever be, don't ever feel bound because of what you are or what kind of voice you have. Just use what you have and do it. And you learn how to sing correctly, which is very, very important. Because if you don't sing correctly, by the time you're 30, you won't have no voice. So, just do what it is that you do with the training that you have and do it to the best of your ability.
I'm not going to say anything else, but my philosophy, and I love jazz, I love gospel. Get that technique, you can sing anything.
That's right.
Anything. But you can't abuse those vocal cords.
That's right.
Some things can't be reversed.
We have time for 2 more questions.
Professor Butler.
Professor Butler.
Well, this is not really my question. This is for this introverted young lady that's slouching down in the seat. She's a junior piano major, Kiara. She wanted me to ask you, for her, how do you deal with stage fright?
Is that what you're doing right now? I'm just messing with you. My piano teacher told me, he said, you should always have a bit of stage fright. Because once you relax completely and say, I got this, that's when tragedy strikes. So you should always be a little bit of nervousness. I don't think, you can't let it overtake you. I still get butterflies in my stomach before I go out, but once I walk on stage, I'm fine. But I remember the days of the juries, and I remember my senior recital, which was like a dream to me. It was like I was above my body looking down on my big afro. I can't even really remember being there. I was so nervous. But I never let it affect my performance. I think that's the main thing. And I think the more you do it, you overcome it. I mean, everybody is nervous, I think, at some point. Usually folks who ain't nervous are the ones who are not talented. I hate to say that. But you got some folks with a lot of nerve, and then you hear it, you're like, you should be nervous. But I think the more you do it, because I started singing and playing when I was 5. And by the time I was 7, I was playing for my stepdad's church. So church is one of the biggest ways to overcome nervousness, because you're called on to do all kinds of things, impromptu things.
Yes.
Playing keys you don't really know how to play in, or sing, or if you're a pianist playing a song that you never heard of before, but if you know how to harmonize the melody, then you know how to get your way, take the 1, 4, 5, and maybe a 6 thrown in there, and play the song. So I think church is definitely for me, was one of the biggest ways that I overcame my stage fright. I remember my stepfather said, I want you to play for church. I was 7. And I was like, no, I'm scared. He was like, if I have to put a curtain around you and around the piano, you gonna play. And he made me play. The more I did it, the more comfortable I became. So I think the more you do it, the more comfortable you can become.
It's more of a comment, Dr. Smallwood. From our days at Union Temple to Howard Divinity to this day, you've been consistent. And I believe, to answer this question, how does your music go so far? God can trust you because you have integrity and because you're humble. You find one person that has a one hit, and now they just the biggest thing. No Grammy, no nothing. But you have all of that, and you've been consistent throughout the years, and so God can trust you with the sound from heaven that can transcend everything. So thank you for being one of us.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you so much. All right. 2 more questions. With the camera.
So, how do you go about completing your pieces when you make like songs like Close Praise?
I'm sorry, say it again.
How do you go about completing your pieces like Close Praise?
How to complete them?
Close Praise, Anthem Praise. Yeah.
Complete them in terms of.
When you start, when you first get your, like, when you first hearing the song.
How do I develop it? I think every song is sort of different. I usually start out with maybe a musical idea. Usually music comes before the lyrics. Most of the time. Sometimes it's different, but most of the time the music, and I'll just hear like a motif, and I'll put the motif down. Like this phone is full of motifs that I haven't, developed. And then I'll sit down and just sort of see where I go from there. It's sort of hard to explain. Anthem Praise was much different in that I got the idea of it when I was in the airport, and I put it down on my phone, and I started when I got back to DC, I started teaching it to Vision, but I changed it like every rehearsal. So the next rehearsal I was like, remember what I told y'all last week? Forget that. Do this. And they were like, he's lost his mind. And that went on for about, because I knew where I wanted to go, and I knew when it was there, I would know it, but it wasn't there yet. It's just something in here that I know when it's where it's supposed to be. And so that song, it was just like, for about 4 or 5 weeks, I changed it every rehearsal. And they were like, Richard, what is going on? I said, just follow me. I don't know where I'm going, but I'm going somewhere. So I just sort of know in here when it's completed and when it's supposed to be, where it's supposed to be. Like, some people just will work on a song for like years and years or months and months or whatever. But I know when I finished it. It's just something in here that I just know, okay, this is it. When I hear it, and I get that feeling like, okay, I just sort of intuitively know it.
This question is from Richard Odom, who said he couldn't make it. But
Hey, Richard.
This question. What he thinks would further advance gospel music as a major at UDC? What would make it stand out? What would it take to put UDC on the map and attract more students to enroll in that major?
Well, I think marketing is everything. Just like this, whatever university that was, saying they were the first. A lot of people don't know of the gospel major thing that's here. A lot of people don't know of that, And I think that if some way you guys could really market it like on a national basis, because listen. When I was going to school, if I had known of somewhere I could go and major in gospel music, I would have been there like that. I mean, but I think people have to know about it, and I think one of the main things is that you have to really market it and let people know that it's here. Let them know what the what the curriculum is and what you teach and what you learn and that kind of stuff. And I really think that people would flock if they knew about it. I think that's the main thing that people just don't know. I know because of Pearl, of course, but I don't know if it's known like on a national level the way it should, and it actually should be, because I think people would flock to it. I really do.
Well, it has been our pleasure to have you here join us today.